Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I didn't know where to start with today's guest. How do I introduce this person to you on this podcast? So I thought, let's go to ChatGPT and ask it, what is this guy's story? And here's what it had to say. Today's guest has worn just about every hat imaginable in the world of Canadian pickleball. Ryan Haynes is an accomplished player, a national champion, an elite coach, a certified ref, a tournament director, and now he's serving as director of competitions for Pickleball Canada. Over the years, Ryan has helped shape the sport from the grassroots level all the way to the national stage, organizing major tournaments, developing players, and helping establish the standards that continue to drive pickleball's remarkable growth across this country. To say he's a big deal is an understatement. I know you're going to love this conversation. So here he is, Ryan Haynes on Kitchen Conversations. Well, Ryan, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks very much. I've enjoyed the podcast so far. I think you're doing great stuff here, so I'm happy to be a part of it.
You wrote an article about 6 years ago for CBC about pickleball. I want to touch on that article. I want to get your reflection on maybe what's changed, in your opinion, from that article to today. But I want to talk about when you got involved at the YMCA, who brought you into the game. You were a nanny at one point with long hair. We have to talk about that story. So I think logically, can we start with you getting into this game of pickleball and how it all started for you at the YMCA?
Sure. So I was a racket sports guy. A little later than some maybe, but in high school, I discovered tennis and badminton, which kind of usurped soccer as my favorite sport. It had always been soccer growing up, and I took to it. And then we had a ping pong table as well, which we had a lot of fun with. And so especially badminton, I was a bit of a badminton junkie, and I played a little bit when I moved to Kingston, but we were at the Y. I have three boys. They were young at the time. And 2 or 3 times I saw this sign for pickleball, and they had the picture on the poster.
Yeah.
It was clearly a paddle sport.
Yeah.
And, that intrigued me just because of my interest in racket sports in the past. And I think finally, I don't remember 100%, but something happened where something was canceled, and I saw that, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go up and give it a shot. And Leslie Inglis, who I love very much, and is a longtime player. We don't get to see her as much as we'd like to anymore, but Leslie Inglis was a volunteer at the Y, and she was running the pickleball session and put a wooden paddle in my hand and explained the basics of the game. And I think I stuck around for maybe an hour and a bit, and it wasn't great. I think just my background let me kind of hit the ball maybe a little harder and stuff than was appropriate for that space. And I kind of had a sense for that. So it was a really very beginner, low level play happening that time. And to be honest, I think it was probably a month before I went back. Again, I think it was more just, I'm going to give it another shot. And at that time, and I'll give credit to these guys, Victor Carquez was there.
Okay, yeah.
Mike was there too. And Mike would run leagues.
Is that Mike Hewitt?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mike Hewitt was there too. So there was a higher level of competition that appealed to me right away. Coming out of that, there was enough of my racket background, I think, that came through that, Mike was organizing kind of higher level play at RMC and invited me out to their kind of ladder league session. And when I went and played that, I was hooked at that point. Yeah.
What is it, Ryan? I mean, I've asked this question, obviously, it's a pretty obvious question, I think, but from your perspective, what is it about that moment, that game that just, it's almost instantaneous? And for you, it took maybe an extra day or two, but, so many of us have stepped onto a court. For me, it was Pam Bidnos, who, of course, is a founding member, one of the founding members of the Pickleball Club and the facility at Gardner's Road. And it was Pam that dragged us into the game. And it was immediate for me. It was just immediate. What, in your professional and personal opinion, what is it? Is it just the ease of learning the game, Ryan? Is it just that simple?
So if I were, and not speaking just for myself, but if I were looking at it as more of a whole,
Yeah.
I think it's much more accessible than
Right.
any other racket sport.
Yeah.
So I have seen adults and children, over my 10 plus years, I've probably taught 50 learn to plays, I would think at least. So I've seen people with maybe limited coordination, athletic ability, might not be off the charts, but they can pick up a pickleball paddle and they can experience some success. They can hit some good shots. It doesn't require a full out sprint or the shredding of your hamstrings like squash does. It's much easier to pick up than tennis, squash, even racquetball and badminton. So I think there's that. There's just the ease of access is there. And then when you couple that with the social aspect of the game, which is 4 players, and when they start, they're playing this game. It's got a silly name and they're all close together. They're having some success.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. Like the game, we're watching the evolution of the game right now, but 10 years ago, and I think maybe you came in right as things were transitioning, but it used to just be 30 people would go at 9 o'clock and you'd throw paddles in and you just play for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
That still exists. There's still social programming out there, but certainly now we're evolving into private facilities, booked courts and stuff like that. So for me, ease of access, you can have some success right away. And then just the social aspect, I think is a big part of what sets the sport apart.
Yeah. Well, I think you said in that article that you wrote for CBC back in 21, which is, it's hard to believe that was 6 years ago. And it was a great article. And I first bumped into it when I did the newsletter at the club and had featured you in there. And so I've been aware of this article for some time, Ryan, but you mentioned there the friendships. The most important part of the game for you at that point, at least, was the friendships that you've made across the country. And I assume that stands the test of time today for you. I mean, that's.
Yeah. And especially I think, so for me, because I've always been someone who gravitates towards organizing competition. I love competition. I for whatever reason, don't seem to enjoy organizing much else in my life, but competition, I'm all for it.
Priorities, Ryan. That's all it is.
So I mean, when I started, the game was very much still early stages growing. And so at that time, to play at a high level, we used to have to travel. I used to have to drive to Toronto or Ottawa to get really good games. And that turned into kind of even across the country, BC is a little ahead of everyone, but, everyone else at the higher level was traveling and you'd see each other 2 or 3 times a year. But we all knew each other at that point. It's very different now.
Right.
I walk out on the court and I get beaten by everybody now. It's, whether I know them or not. But there was a time where you really, to find high level play, we used to always have to travel. And so you'd spend the day playing together. You would go out and eat. And so a lot of really great friendships, coast to coast, that I've formed over the years. I mean, it's a long list. Like if I get into the incredible things that have happened to me because of pickleball, right? It has completely revolutionized my whole life. Like
it's amazing.
It is front and center in everything I do now. But that's certainly still right near the top of a long list of just things I'm very thankful for from pickleball.
Yeah, 100%. Well, listen, I mean, you just, to say that Ryan Haynes is an OG of pickleball is an understatement. I mean, locally for sure, provincially, across the country, and then beyond the borders of Canada. I mean, your qualifications is rough and your coaching, Ryan. I mean, it's interesting, how a poster at YMCA can do that, and I think that's the point that I'd like to make with the podcast to those listening is, don't discount this game, because I think there are certain people that still shy away from it a little bit for fear that they just won't be any good. I haven't played racket sports and I came into it with that and I'm still no good, but that's okay. I can live with where I am. I like where my game is. I like where I plug into it and I enjoy every minute I'm on the court. But the encouragement that I bring to the podcast is don't let the fact that you've not played tennis, not played badminton, not played ping pong get in the way of trying this game, because that side of it, if that's what you get out of it, it's worth doing alone, just the friendships that come from that. So what do you think, Ryan, for those of us that came in? I came to the game, let's say 3.5 years ago, at a time when it was relatively easy to play. I mean, KPC was just building out we were in the building during the open houses before, there was cardboard, there were no fencing. I mean, but for us, that was just, oh, well, this is easy. You sign up, you go to court reserve, you book a court, you come in, you sign up for a social program. But tell me about pickleball when you first started. It wasn't that easy in Kingston. I mean, guys like Chuck McDonald were fighting for outdoor courts, trying to negotiate with the city. What would the player today not fully understand from your perspective, Ryan, about the game in, let's say, 2015, 2016?
It's funny, and you're familiar with KPC, and not everyone will be, so I'll be quick about this. But we have one court at KPC, court number 2, that gets traffic. You have to walk along. Now, we built in a little extra space, but you have to walk alongside court number 2 to get to other courts.
Right.
And people complain about it. And I've said on more than one occasion, like we're not that far removed from where I couldn't take a full backswing because the wall was against my back at the YMCA, or there's pillars beside the courts, or we're playing on tiles at the Boys and Girls Club where the ball doesn't bounce. And so now we're complaining about this beautiful cushioned hard court, professional, permanent net, court in a facility where even our walls are the exact opposite of the Franklin ball on the color wheel for maximum contrast. Like, just a beautiful spot to play.
Absolutely.
And so I do get a kick out of that. So yeah, I mean, when we started, it was the YMCA. I mean, just temporary nets.
Yeah.
There were the courts in Harrowsmith that Chuck's the godfather of the game in this area. He's the one that really, not only did he kind of spur the development of the Harrowsmith space, which is where we really kind of grew out of. He assisted me running my first tournament. He had experience and to this day has come out and volunteered and helped at tournaments. Yeah,
he's something else, isn't he? He's really something.
Yeah. So, but even then, we were still temporary nets there for a long time. Painted courts was a luxury. Like real lines, not taped. Not just badminton lines was great. So it was really the Y. And then the RMC was the hub of indoor pickleball for my first 2 or 3 years. And I don't miss dragging mats. We used to drag the mats across the track, through the curtain, and set them up around the court to keep the ball in play, because they had curtains that didn't quite go all the way down
to the ground. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's a surface that's a little stickier. The ball tends to, the harder balls tend to skid, but I mean, it was what we had. So I don't miss the days of showing up at RMC and kind of hopefully there's space that we can grab, but maybe not. And we're setting up badminton nets on the court with the badminton poles that go into the holes in the ground. So it was, I get probably my first 4 or 5 years where it was an upgrade when we got, when the Boys and Girls Club replaced that tile floor and they put that kind of hard rubber composite courts in. That was an improvement. Mm-hmm. We had real lines and reliable scheduling at least there. But then to get into our own facility, it like really just a huge improvement in my quality of life, as well as a lot of other people that are passionate about the sport. Yeah. And we've seen the level of play go through the roof. Mm-hmm. Like when you have the ability to go in and play multiple times a week, and it's not everyone's crowded in, so you're getting on for a game and off for 2 games. It's been one. I mean, we've seen the racket club in the East End and Fairgrounds now. Yeah. So. There's lots of opportunities to play on decent to amazing courts at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I love all that. And I love the fact that the accessibility seems to be the key to it. And really the cost to get into this game is a pair of shoes. Because I know almost every club will have a demo paddle program of some sort. So come on in with a pair of clean shoes, give the game a try. And I know for me, taking people through that blue door at Kingston Pickleball Club was a moment. Husband and wife would come in and take a look, and to be able to walk them through that door and just to see the space back there was a moment. And it had to be something for the players, though, that were part of the club, Ryan, that had played on those multi-use surfaces the very first time they stepped in the doors at 1150 Gardeners Road, though, not knowing exactly what they were about to see. That had to be a moment for you as a founding member and the rest of the team that put it together. Can't imagine what that felt like.
Well, and most of those players
Yeah.
that were, kind of at the core, the backbone of the club,
Right.
as we established the Kingston Pickleball Club,
Yes.
Which drove kind of getting the space secure to the Boys and Girls Club and securing nationals and
Yeah.
dealing with a city that has not proven very easy to deal with over the years. That group, I mean, there's definitely a wow factor when you go in, and I still feel it.
Yeah. To this day.
To me, when I walk through those doors, it's still, I don't know if endorphins the right word,
Sure.
but I'm like, I'm at peace there, for lack of a better description. But that core group, they built that space. I mean, we didn't just write a check. We didn't have enough money to do that. Like, those guys got in there and much more than I did. My skill set's a little different. I'm not a particularly handy guy, but the other side of things, the planning and stuff like that, I'm able to help. But they got in there, and my son was up on a lift, like,
Right.
Deanna, my ex, was up on a lift, like scraping ceiling and grinding floors, and it was a very, I don't think there's another story. There's a club in Vernon,
Okay.
that is member owned and driven, and when we came up with a concept to fund and launch our club, we leaned on what they had done there.
Okay.
But they built from scratch. So I don't think there's another story where you have a group of volunteers that just through, blood, sweat, tears, sheer willpower, converted a space from
A muffler shop,
a
manufacturing.
dirty kind of muffler shop.
Absolutely.
Into what we have now. So and I know you had Pam on, which is great, because it doesn't exist without Pam.
Right.
There's maybe 2 or 3 people I can say that about, but she's at the top of the list. Like, those courts don't exist without her.
Absolutely.
So for us to have that story to tell, and you see there's a lot of passion and ownership in the club, with the members. But yeah, it's I think for a lot of other people, because we were, there's a lot of private clubs now.
Yeah.
When we opened, there weren't.
Well, yeah.
There were very few.
Yeah,
so
we need to talk about that a bit too, but yes, carry on. Yeah.
So people coming in, especially in our first couple of years of being open, there was a lot of like wide eyes. And because I ran tournaments there, I would be inside and get to see the new players come in, and just kind of the look of wonder almost, so, and that was gratifying every single time that happened.
Well, it was interesting. You'll love this comment. I spoke to Keith St. Jean. Keith and his wife Tricia participate in a number of True North events, and just great humans. But they've just opened the Dink Den, as you're aware, in Coburg. And we talked last week. We did a quick podcast with him last week, Ryan, and he recalls being there for the first time, driving home and considering, becoming a member, an hour and a half drive from Coburg, just because he said to me, it was the best pickleball Trish and I had ever played. We just couldn't figure it out. The facility just drove better pickleball. The way that the walls reacted to the ball, the color you've mentioned briefly, the dedicated courts. He said the game was more controlled, is how he worded it to me in the podcast, which I thought was interesting, but a real tribute to what you built there, because he said we knew then what we wanted, ultimately was to be able to play in a facility like that at some point down the road. So yeah, I think being first, Ryan, and maybe it's a good time for us to talk about that, because I think if we look at clubs today and the transition, I talked to Wayne Dollard last week. Wayne, of course, runs Pickleball Magazine, Tennis Magazine, 37 other magazines. I don't know when this guy sleeps, but he just opened up Level Up Pickleball in Pittsburgh, $12 million facility, 16 courts, a restaurant, 3 bars, outdoor fire pits, badminton, ping pong, golf simulator. Where do you see this going? Like, we look at Kingston Pickleball Club, and I think when you're first, it's hard because you're breaking the mold, you're setting the bar, and to this day, it stands the test of time, unequivocally. But are you seeing a big shift in private clubs that are starting to see a demand for it becoming more of a community than just a pickleball club? Do we need to see clubs add things like golf simulators, like ping pong, like badminton? Are we far off from having an indoor pool at a pickleball club at some point? Like, what are your thoughts on all of that? Reflecting on what you've built here and seeing what's now being built out across perhaps North America, where do you see it going?
Yeah, I think I think that's a tricky one, and there's probably a few avenues that it's going to go. We see in the States with places like you just described, but also Chicken and Pickle,
Right.
where it is one of and maybe a key feature, but there are lots of other things, and it's aimed at families to come in who maybe they play pickleball, maybe they don't, but they can sit down and eat and do other stuff. I think in Canada, and a larger part of our population is forced inside in the winter.
Yep.
What I saw with the first wave is, we don't know if this is going to work financially.
Right.
We need to find the cheapest space we can. We need to cut corners where we can.
Sure.
A lot of the older clubs, you'll see the courts are a little too tight. Often they're a little too close together. They didn't space them out. Maybe the separation's not great. Where people have made the decision to maximize the number of courts they can get in.
Right.
And so now we're seeing the evolution where, okay, this model's proven a bit. We've seen these clubs be successful. Firsthand, obviously, Kingston has very fortunately been successful from the day we opened.
Yep.
And the day we opened we got our occupancy permit while players were warming up for the first match of nationals on the court.
2022,
so
right?
Very,
a little bit of stress.
It was a little bit of stress. It was a busy week.
Let's say it was a busy week. Yeah. Fair play.
But so now that this concept is proven a little bit, well, now, as we see clubs opening, there's definitely been a trend towards more amenities.
Right.
So that's one road. I'm opening a pickleball club. What else can I reasonably do? And we've seen cold plunges and gym spaces and nicer change rooms and showers and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then the other side is you see a club like Altea in Ottawa, which is a very high-end fitness club.
Yes.
And they've added pickleball just as an added offering to their clients. It's not pickleball centric.
Right.
But pickleball's in it, like Lifetime clubs in the States, right? Where a number of the PPA tournaments, if they play inside, it's normally at a Lifetime facility. So it's interesting because, yes, the pickleball private clubs are, they are kind of expanding their offerings. They're starting to try to separate themselves through quality. The Dink Den's an interesting example. Where it is more KPC like you go in and that's pickleball, and they do have some bikes and they, some stuff, but they've done kind of a superior job, better than I've seen yet at community, a club that is built for developing a community. The way you can sit around the outside of the courts is brilliant. Yeah. So it's going to be the next 2 or 3 years are going to be really interesting. Yeah. In my opinion, and it's not very optimistic, but I think we're going to start to see clubs fail.
I agree.
In the next couple of years, as the proliferation is happening right now. Yeah. There are parts of the GTA where 3 or 4 clubs have opened in the last 2 years. We have, we have franchises. We have Pickleplex, and the Pickler is finally starting to open clubs in Canada, and how are they going to fit into the landscape as well? It's a really interesting time, but in my opinion, it's the clubs that manage to do that, create the sense of community that we certainly have at KPC, are the ones that are, most likely going to continue to thrive.
Yeah, it's interesting. What threat do you see to the game? That was going to be a later in the podcast question, but it makes sense to ask it now. What do you see as a threat to the game of pickleball?
Well, the one that always got me is racquetball. I always thought racquetball was so much fun to play.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a lot easier than squash.
Sure.
And I don't know if squash just appeals to just a subset of people that want to torture themselves.
Perhaps.
And maybe that's enough to have, kind of remained more popular than racquetball.
Right.
Certainly we've seen padel, the tip tee. There's platform tennis. There's there was a mini tennis game already that you can play on the pickleball court. I think out of all of them, padel is the one that's kind of, it's certainly very popular, at least as popular in Spain and Portugal and stuff, much more popular than pickleball. I still see a higher barrier to playing the sport, and it's a lot of overheads and so I think
I agree.
For youth coming in, it may appeal to them.
Right.
We are kind of the Benjamin Button of sports. Like, we've grown backwards. Yeah. Every year the average age keeps going down and down and down.
Which is
but
great.
A huge core of our playing population is still 60 plus.
Sure.
So I think we're going to see we can't maintain this growth. Right. Like, we're on a trajectory to become the most popular sport in the world, the way it's going.
And there's eventually a jump off point there, like everything, there has to be.
And so I do believe it will become the most played paddle racket sport in the world, and it will eventually become, we will end up with world championships and then Olympics and stuff like that. So I think the biggest obstacles we have to overcome, I'm not so worried about paddle technology and ball technology, because there have been steps taken to manage that. Yeah. It's more options to play. So, and we're seeing that addressed, and right now it's being addressed at the private level. But I have a feeling that for the long-term growth of the sport, we're going to need a little more public involvement, especially with indoor space.
And are you talking cities, municipalities, or local government? Like local government, more or less?
Municipalities. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Who, have certainly embraced building hockey arenas and pools. Right. Sure. And at some point they're going to have to, I think, take a look at pickleball the same way. Right. But it's that access to courts. And we've seen in Kingston with the access to courts, how the game has grown and the level of play has just gone through the roof. So I still feel like our biggest challenge is affordable, accessible courts. Do
you find it a challenge? Something came up in a conversation with Wayne Dollard last week, and we got talking about cost of courts, Ryan, and the hourly rate, if you will, quote unquote, for say a drop in. When you're looking at 10, 12, 15 bucks, let's just pick a number. It doesn't much matter, but it always catches me off guard. And I guess perhaps sitting at a desk volunteering periodically and periodically hearing that come up. And I just, I look at the game of golf, and you've got at least several $100s to gear up with a set of clubs, even a cheap set. Then you've got, at least for me, every third shot's going in the pond or the wood. So there goes $7. And then you've got the shoes, and you've got the clothes, and you've got the length of the game. I mean, it strikes me as odd that there is periodically conversation around how expensive pickleball is. And I just don't, that just does not sit well with me. It's a pain point for me. And what's your perspective on it? Do you hear it, or am I misreading something here?
Yeah. And so I curled for many years. Right. I was a curler. Yeah. And curling's the one I kind of look at. Golf is, golf's always been identified as a very expensive sport.
100%.
I have a $700 putter, and it doesn't even work.
No. No, they don't.
No. So, I mean, golf is kind of its own thing, but I always looked at curling.
Sure.
And curling for 5 months or, whatever the season wasn't that much less than a full year of play at the pickleball club.
Agree. Yeah.
So I think this speaks as well, though, to what we said earlier about, how accessible our sport is we, especially in the growth stage, we had a lot of people that didn't play other sports. Yeah. And so the only thing they knew was I show up at the park and it's free. Yes. And I might have spent $80 on a paddle if I got a good one at the time.
Really good one. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Really good one.
And it was free. And so I think there's just a large portion of the population is just not accustomed to paying for sports.
So that may flush itself out then.
I think it is. Like,
good.
And we have low priced pickleball in Kingston.
Yeah,
versus other communities.
Listen, I think it's the greatest value in anyone's life. And I think if you look at a gym membership, you look at what does this game bring you? And we've touched briefly on it, Ryan. I mean, I played 6 hours the other day. Again, not the smartest move in my books, but I came home with 20,000 steps. I had 490 zone minutes. I don't know how many calories I burned. And I had the time of my life. We laughed, we joked. I mean, I didn't want to leave. I had to, but I didn't want to. And I think when I measure the value of that, the cost of what that was for that day versus the benefit I got, I can't find it anywhere else, including curling.
Yeah.
To your point, I just can't find it. So well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm thinking you're right. And I think Wayne Dollard expressed the exact same thoughts, that we're coming from a culture of people that started in the game in, 2015, 2016, playing on outdoor courts. We're competing against free in a lot of people's minds. And so the moment there's any cost associated, there's a bit of pushback. So yeah, interesting stuff. Great. Well, listen, I'm careful with the clock, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. We could talk all morning about this. Tell me about tournaments right now. We talked about clubs potentially seeing some club failures as this thing evolves because of oversaturation. How's the tournament scene looking in Ontario today?
Yeah, it's rapidly changing scene for sure. I mean, when I started playing, there were 2 tournaments. There was Hamilton at McMaster and London at Fanshawe. Those were the 2 tournaments for the year. And then the Limestone Classic, which we ran at RMC, became the 3rd one.
All right.
And then, probably years 3 through 6, other than, and actually I ended up running the Fanshawe tournaments, but it was really us running tournaments.
Yeah.
And very few others were available. But as they became successful and people recognized an opportunity, we started to see more people enter the arena and do really well with it, to the point now where we have on many weekends 2 and even sometimes 3 tournaments. There's not a lot of weekends where there's not a tournament in Ontario.
I agree. Yeah.
So we've gone from 3 a year to
3 a weekend,
200 a year.
Yeah. Right.
So, just the math on that, even though the numbers are growing, it's tougher. And I think the other thing you see is we're on, and I'm kind of out of that side of it, but like we're on our 4th wave of players.
Okay.
And so that's, when we started and these were our friends and you'd go to the tournaments, you'd see the same people over and over. And they would slowly weed out, but then you'd get another wave of people who would play, play and play and
right,
play.
Right.
And I think what happens, and I've had this described to me by a couple people, is you go to these tournaments, you have a great time, you make these friends, but then you realize that you're going to the tournaments and you're just playing these friends. You can just play on your own.
Right.
And then we hook some more people on tournament play and they end up getting to that point. So right now there's very, very few when we go that were there originally.
Gotcha.
But we still have people that come to every tournament.
Yes.
So definitely the numbers are like, there's a couple tournaments coming up. There's one in Peterborough and one in Belleville the same weekend, which is probably not the greatest planning. But they're both I think 130 in that ballpark where, less than 200 used to be seen as kind of like a really, really poor turnout. But I think it's
just part of it.
Part of it now is you are going to get lower numbers. But then we see with the bigger tournaments, the really big tournaments, nationals, provincials, and stuff like that, that they still draw
huge
big numbers. One of the things in my new role, and I don't want to jump ahead on you too much, but I'm running a number of provincials across the country. The BC provincials is at 860 players, and I would make a wager that it will end up being the biggest tournament that's ever been held in Canada by the time it runs in July.
Yeah.
So it's the smaller level tournaments are certainly suffering. The numbers are dropping, and I think expectations have to change with that. Sure. Big tournaments are still doing really well, and then it's stuff like the team challenge.
God, what a day!
That concept, right, where it was okay. We're not going for numbers. We're going to charge a premium, but we're going to try to provide a premium experience. Yeah. And I think that there's probably more of a market for that kind of thing moving forward, where you give people something a little different. And
like that is a game, that is a weekend that will make you fall in love with this game. And I think if I had to pick one moment for me where the switch really went off, it was that first one. I've done a couple, and the chance for me as a beginner to get on a court and play alongside 4-5s and 4-0s and feel the camaraderie and the friendships that instantly happen. I mean, good on you for coming. I mean, wherever that came from, that was, what a move, what a tournament, what a weekend. And I would encourage anyone who's never had a chance to do that to get into one as soon as possible. It's it's just a great weekend.
Yeah, by far the most enjoyable events that I'm involved with.
And it didn't feel like a pressure moment. Like I've been in other tournaments, and you know, they just present differently to me mentally. That one was just like hanging out with your buds and having the greatest time of your life. And yeah, it was competitive, and there was a goal and an objective, and that was to win. But the way the scoring structure is done and the way that the Sunday rolls out, it's just such a great tournament. So yeah, for sure. Well, that's interesting. We're also seeing challenges though at the pro level, aren't we, for tournaments? Or is there not a saturation of tournaments at the pro level, or am I misinterpreting that?
No, I think that the pro, so the PPA events still draw big numbers.
Okay.
I think APP, is struggling a bit, and Ken Herman, who's kind of the face of APP, has done an incredible job of just shifting. The PPA brings a lot of money to the table. Yeah. They've secured the vast majority of the best players. And so I think we've seen that kind of battle play out over the last few years, but PPA has kind of emerged as the dominant top league in the world. But they're getting big numbers at their events. The APP has cut back, but I think they still do well. But you're not seeing a lot of other tournaments outside of that. So, one of the big ones always was the Beer City Open, which is now kind of tied into the MLP.
Right.
And that has big numbers. But a lot of the smaller tournaments, the same thing as here. Yeah. They don't have the participation they used to have. U.S. Open obviously is separate from both and is still the kind of premier amateur event in the world. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting because it may still shift. We may still.
Yeah. Well, and then we could probably spend half an hour just talking about Asia, Malaysia.
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend a whole podcast on where that's going. Yeah. Because someone on a previous podcast, which has yet to air, has predicted that the number one player in the world will come out of Asia at some point in the next 3 to 5 years, and it'll be interesting to see that development. But incredible, and the age too. I spoke to a 16-year-old pro out of BC, McConnor Dye. A brilliant young kid.
I just spent time with McConnor last weekend.
What a kid, and just to see that and to see the shift in his attitude towards the game and he doesn't even call himself a pro, which is a fascinating part of the conversation because from my perspective, he certainly qualifies on a number of key metrics. But yeah, so maybe we'll have you back someday to talk about the growth of pickleball, what Pickleball Canada is seeing through that lens about global pickleball growth, because I think that's a whole different podcast. So let's jump into that role, Ryan. I mean, you've done so much in the game, coaching, reffing, tournament play, tournament organization. You own a company. You play at a high level. You've played at the U.S. Open. You've medaled at the Nationals. You've played with Steve Deacon. You played with Cameron too. I mean, there isn't much you haven't done, and now you're with Pickleball Canada. How did that happen?
I think so. I've I would say I have been at the kind of front edge or near it with the growth of the sport for a long time in Canada, because I started running tournaments early, and so I have volunteered in a number of positions with Pickleball Canada. I was involved in earlier tournament committees as well as the CTPR. At one point, I was the lead of the competitive side of CTPR. And then even as recently as a year and a half ago, I was doing the CTPR reviews for Pickleball Canada. If someone, felt that their CTPR was off and it was a flawed rating, I would be the one that would look at your application and history and say, okay, this is what you should be. So I've been involved with Pickleball Canada over the years, but I think the big thing was Winnipeg at Nationals last year. They were having some struggles on day one.
Okay.
And if you haven't run a big event like that with all kinds of different events running and stuff, it's a tall order. And they got into some trouble and needed some help. So
yeah, sure.
I was able to help them. And I think, Barry Petrochenko is the executive director of Pickleball Canada. He was there to kind of see that. And I think just kind of came to the realization that this event's too big to just rely on volunteers. It's just too much to put on them.
Yeah.
And I think he decided he wanted to add this position.
So it's a new position that did not exist, created specifically for you.
Say it's custom created.
Nice. Nice. I didn't know that.
But it was really necessary. And I think also just the staff at Pickleball Canada is great, but there wasn't a lot of pickleball
right
knowledge background there.
Sure.
So I think for a couple of reasons, one we can turn the operation of the tournament over. But also this brings a pickleball resource. Because like you said, I've strayed into most areas of the game. So I have, a breadth of knowledge that not a lot of people would have. And I think it serves Pickleball Canada well. It's been a really, really good fit so far. I've really enjoyed it. It's very different. For me, I haven't worked for someone in a long time.
Yeah. How's that going?
It's been good.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's been good. When you work for the right person, it's good.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Where do you see it going? I mean, this is something you see yourself doing for the next X number of years? I mean, you're loving it now. Nobody knows what the future holds. But
I would love to see it through to the Olympics at the very least.
Okay, good, because we're going there. You're going to, that question's coming this morning. Where are we? What's the status of all of that? And if you want to jump into that now, that would be great. But it's viable. It's real, is it? I mean, it's a real conversation.
Yeah, you know what? For a long time, I thought, I don't know if this game's going to translate. The slow play at the kitchen, is that going to be popular enough?
Yeah.
But I have changed my opinion on that because I've seen the success, but also just the sheer numbers of people playing, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
And the explosion in Asia that it's coming. So, we're having growing pains at the international level, coming up with one kind of coordinated, strong international body has been a challenge.
Yeah.
But I think that's getting sorted out. And then the next step will be, you have to have a world championship before you have Olympics.
Okay.
And so, those talks are already being held, and it's my hope that the first one will be in Canada.
Nice.
We're certainly working towards that. And then from there, you go into the Olympics, they don't call it demonstration sport anymore.
Exhibition?
So
is there's something like that?
Something like that. Or
right.
The local country gets to add a couple sports. We had breakdancing at the last
right.
one.
Australia, I think, brought that to the table.
So I do believe it will happen in the next,
good
2 to 3 Olympics.
Yeah.
We're starting. So one of the other things that's on my plate is I'm involved with launching a high performance program.
Okay.
In Canada, and that's why I was with McConnor. I was just out in Calgary, working with Steve Deacon, who was given the opportunity by MLP to create a Team Canada to compete in the July MLP competition in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So we just held a high performance combine to select the team, and we had 29 players from across the country there. Steve was it was his baby, but I was there to help him.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Level of play.
Incredible.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
Well,
if you're impressed, it must be something.
Yeah. So, this is year 1 of our high performance program, but we're now identifying, that group of Canadians from which we will select our world championship.
So I want to make sure I understand this. This is the most elite players in the country. It exceeds any other league that's performing, that's playing. These are the best of the best that are coming out to apply for this. Is that fair?
So it was an application process.
Okay.
So, we had highest level players there. We had, CNPL is a pro league in Canada.
Right.
We had a number of CNPL players there. We had a couple players come from the States who are Canadian and have had success at the pro level.
Okay.
Was Catherine Parento there? No.
Right.
We would have liked to have seen Etienne Blaskowitz, who's from Quebec and has had some success on the pro level. He didn't make it there. Did we have players that are at that level? Yeah, I believe so. So we want to continue to grow this, and we want to bring all of our best players in under this umbrella, but it's a growing.
But it's a start, Ryan.
Process.
It's a start to what needs to happen. It's complicated. I spoke to Javier, president of Global Pickleball Federation as well, and they're one of the voices supposedly at the table trying to get the Olympics to happen, and it's complicated. It's he did his best to explain the process that he believes has to happen in order for it to occur, but there's just a lot of moving pieces. And I think one of the problems in anything in life is politics. And I think anytime there's politics involved, there's going to be confusion. And, the importance of getting one voice, one direction, one focus is something. And it sounds like Pickleball Canada has done some good things in the last little while. Bringing you on board, getting some focus in that regard is important. I don't think there's a player that wouldn't love to see it, that loves this game at the Olympics. I mean, if curling can go to the Olympics, I love curling, but I think pickleball is just as exciting as curling to watch.
Well, and the sport has been undeniable.
It has.
So at every level, whatever challenges that we've faced, the sheer popularity of the sport has overwhelmed those challenges.
Well, and talk about wheelchair pickleball for a minute. I mean, talk about the accessibility of it for everyone. The 2-bounce rule there. And I mean, there's just no way that the game doesn't adapt and adopt to whatever the demands are. And so, to think of it being at the Olympics is just really special. I love that. So tell me about a week quickly. What's your week look like for Pickleball Canada? Are you traveling a lot? You out of town a lot? You're here this morning, which is great. Appreciate you being in the studio, but how often are you traveling?
So it's a fair number of meetings. I'm on Zoom a lot more than I anticipated I would ever be in my life.
There you go.
But certainly now we're hitting a stretch where I was just in Calgary for that high performance combine. I leave tomorrow to go to Winnipeg to run the Manitoba provincials this weekend.
Okay.
I'll be back for a week. I'm playing in a tournament in Ottawa, and then I'm going to run I'm going to run the tournament desk at the Quebec provincials and go right from there to PEI for the Atlantic Championship. And then, Steve, I'm going to be working closely with Steve. Yeah. He and I are pretty good friends.
Yes.
I'll be running the PPA Canada stuff this year, the tournament desk at the PPA Canada stuff. BC provincials, Ontario provincials. I'm going to be the general manager of Team Canada for that MLP event. So at this point now where we hit this busy stretch, it's going to be, at least half the time kind of on the road running events. And I've also launched this Pickleball Canada League, which we're trying to get up and running. And year one's proving challenging. We're having success with it in Kingston, and there's a few other spots that are starting it, but so kind of along that league I think has the potential to be great. And when I decided to run the team competition, the one thing I really wanted to achieve, because there's lots of MLP style events where it's, your dupers have to add up to this. Yeah. I wanted to have a team that had all different levels on it.
Okay.
It wasn't just a group of 4-0s playing a group of 4-0s.
Gotcha.
4-5s, 4-0s, 3-5s, 3-0s, and a little bit of chance to mix in. It's this team has a similar, the league has a similar aspect where, you play a ladder and the ladder will filter you where you should be.
Right. It'll fix it. Right.
Yeah. But the team that comes out of the ladder that will compete at the regional, provincial, national levels will be made up of those 4 levels of players again.
That's cool.
So that it's not just aimed at our highest level of players. There's a lot of opportunities right now for the highest level, but so the leagues is something I'm working on that I'm really excited about. High performance, I'm super excited about. And then just running the events that's my wheelhouse. That's kind of, I've been doing that for a long time now. And I've got a pretty good grasp on doing that. So, but that's, so the first part of the week tends to be meetings, working on league stuff. Yeah. If I'm on the road, I'm leaving Wednesday, Thursday normally.
Yeah. Well, even this morning, we weren't sure until I guess maybe the weekend whether you were going to be here in town or be somewhere else this morning. I think Peterborough. Yeah. So, I pride myself on being a pretty early riser, Ryan. But when I communicate with you, we use Messenger primarily between the two of us, and it's always interesting when I go to send you a note at 5 a.m. and I see, active 38 minutes ago. So I don't know, when you're sleeping or if you're sleeping, but I'm creeping you a little bit in the background, going, this guy never sleeps. And it's interesting to me, as busy as you are, when I send you a note within minutes, you're right back to me. So congratulate you on being able to manage all of that. It sounds like it's a full plate, obviously, and good on you. And thank you, by the way, for doing all you're doing to help the game that we all love so much. Well, listen, I'm watching the clock. A couple of final things, if you don't mind. Where do you land on duper? Or do you want to touch it? And if you don't want to touch it, that's fine. But
so this is an area where I might be able to get myself in a little bit of trouble because, Pickleball Canada, we have a contract with duper.
Okay. Yeah.
That's our official rating system. It's way easier, as someone who was doing the reviews on the CTPR, that was an enormous amount of work.
Yeah.
It's much easier to turn it over.
Sure.
I will say that I am not a fan of the kind of oligopoly that exists with pickleball.com and Duper and that, you know, our data and all of these things, we're relying on private companies whose primary goal, and good for them, is to make money.
Right.
I don't think that's a great position for a national sporting organization to be in. So I don't like that aspect of it. I think Duper will work itself out.
Yeah.
And you know, there's always going to be complaints about rating systems. There's always going to be people who improve at a much rapider level than other people, and it will always be a challenge to get them where they belong. But I do think it's by far the best situation ratings wise we've been in since I started the sport.
Okay. That's good to hear.
So I do think it will work out. Yeah. You know, I think I would love to see something at the international level that's owned by, you know, the national sporting organizations and stuff that didn't require private interests to management.
Well, I appreciate you jumping into that. It's a tough question, and there's been a few people that have just decided they'd rather not comment on it, and I respect that. It's a bit of a hotbed right now. Okay, final two things. What's Steve Deacon up to? He's your buddy. Boy, he's doing something big out west, 98,000 square feet, 28 courts, volleyball, pickleball, the Nest. What an undertaking. I just want to hear it from you because you've got close connections there, and I'd love to hear the story.
Yeah, I mean, so Steve's transitioning from, you know, at one point Steve was a top 5 player in the world before his wrist was injured, and he's the best senior player in the world.
In the world.
Right now.
Yeah, we want to make that point.
He hasn't lost a men's doubles match at the senior level, senior pro level.
Where did you guys meet?
So it was interesting because we ran a tournament here in Kingston, and Matt Kawamoto and Ernesto Fajardo had a lot of success in our area. They had just won the 5-0 at the U.S. Open, and they may have been making some noise about being the best players in Canada.
Okay. A little chirping going on.
And
maybe?
Steve caught wind of that.
Uh-oh.
And he contacted me and said, look, you know, we're thinking of coming from BC to play, you know.
Wow.
So I helped him out a bit, just made sure he made it from the airport and stuff. And they came in and he established that he was the best player in Canada at that tournament. But he played at one of our little tournaments at RMC.
Isn't that wild?
And so we met each other there and hit it off.
Yeah.
You know, I was running some other tournaments that he came and played. You know, we'd see each other in the States every once in a while. So we just became friends. And then we played the men's 40 plus in Regina together, which was, you know, a highlight of my life. It was a dream to play with him. Incredible player. And so from there, now that he's kind of transitioning into, okay, I'm going to run this club, going to get more involved in high performance stuff and the management side of the sports. My skill set fits really nicely with his.
Sure.
And so, you know, we have plans to do quite a bit together.
Nice.
And I, you know, if I'm involved in running the high performance program in Canada, there's no better person to have involved than Steve Deacon. So, you know, I'm going after him for that stuff. He likes to have me involved for some of the organizing and running of events and stuff. So, it's been it's a long relationship now. He's, you know, become one of my best friends and
I love that.
We're looking forward to doing a bunch of really cool stuff together over the next few years. But the Nest is
it's something else.
It's going to be,
and it's a purpose-built facility,
spot.
right? Yeah, coming from the ground up, and
I was just in Vancouver, and it was the shells were up, and the pro shop was just being put together. But it's going to be. And that's where the BC provincials will be held. As well as a couple of the PPA Canada events. But I can't wait.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, again, you mentioned it right out of the gate, the friendships that were so important to you. And this is just another example of that, Ryan. And I don't know him, obviously. I've never met him. But just the bit that I hear about him and his social, it's funny, you know, guys like Deacon, and I've asked this of people like Steve Peranto, Kevin Beeson. I've asked it of some of the best known names in the game. But the sense that we know somebody, and it may be one of the pitfalls of social media for those people that are so well recognized. But if I met Steve Deacon this afternoon, I just feel like I know him. And it's got to be a bit awkward for guys like him because he hasn't got a clue who I am and never will. But I just find social media today, and in the sport of pickleball in particular, the sense that we know these people, that we have this sort of relationship with them because they're so open and so giving. And he is all of that. I mean, he posted something a few weeks ago, him sitting in an Adirondack chair having a cup of coffee, and it just resonated with me. I mean, it just seems like a guy that you want to spend time with. On that note, tell me about you having long hair and being a nanny in the Netherlands, and we'll wrap up our conversation on that story because we teased it out of the gate and I don't want to lose track of it. I can't picture it.
Yeah, it was a time of experimentation in my life. So, you know what? I wanted to travel, and I worked with kids all through high school. I worked at a camp.
Okay.
Loved working with kids, and it was an opportunity to be an au pair.
Wow.
To go over to the Netherlands and work with kids still. So, you know, the long hair was around for a while. Became too much work. That's, you know, laziness drives a lot of what I do.
Efficiency, call it efficiency.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a period in my life. You know, I had that experience. I sold encyclopedias door to door in Western Canada for a couple of years. That was a unique experience that helped kind of shape, you know, what I do now even.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a highlight. You know,
I love it.
Yeah, being over there was a highlight for sure.
And does O Canada still bring a tear to your eye? It was one of the questions that was asked in that CBC report that, you know, what song kind of tears you up? And
and so I'm going to tell a quick story because it ties into when I was in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Working as an au pair nanny. I was on the train from Haarlem to Amsterdam.
Okay.
And an older gentleman came on the train and he said to me in Dutch, like, "Can you sit down?" And I said, "I don't, you know, speak to Engels. I didn't, you know, I don't really speak Dutch.
Can't really help you here."
And he said, "Oh, okay. You didn't mind if I sat?" I'm like, "No, absolutely. Sit down." He asked if I was American. I said, "No, I'm Canadian." And he whistled the entire Canadian anthem right there and then.
No way.
And he told me how, as a school child, the Netherlands was liberated by Canada in World War II, and they were all taken to a stadium and they sang the Canadian national anthem, and he remembered it to that day. So that, you know, that brought me to tears then.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, so that's so yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Canadian anthem still does it.
Well, Ryan, listen, on a closing note, we are in a moment today, you and me and the rest of this great country. And I've never been more proud to be a Canadian than I have in the last couple of years, in spite of everything that's happening. And this is not a political podcast, and I'm not smart enough to even go down that rabbit hole. But I will say that we are in a moment. In my 59 years, I could never have imagined that we would be dealing with what we're dealing with, you know, including Stephen Colbert no longer being on the air.
Yeah.
It's a moment.
I agree 100%.
It's a moment. So to hear you reflect on the Canadian national anthem and the importance of that in this moment is really incredible. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you for being here. It's been a great podcast.
My pleasure. It would be. Happy to come back.
Yeah. Good luck with everything. Good luck getting some sleep. And know that I'm watching. I'm watching that messenger to see what time did this guy get up this morning. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your day and safe travels.